welcome to my podcast, the Nerve Podcast.
The Nerve Podcast.
Yeah, the Nerve, because every podcast is going to tweak someone's nerve, I guarantee it. Came up with it. It was going to be called the Something Podcast because it's always going to be something to talk about or something on your mind after. But so I'm KJ, 22, born in America, grew up in England, now live back in America. This is my dad, Simon. I don't know, tell him a bit about yourself.
Well, about me.
Yeah.
Well, like KJ, born in America, English mum and dad. Moved back to England when I was 1. We moved to France when I was 6. Went to a French school for 2 years. We moved back to England when I was 8. And then went to a ridiculous English prep school. And then when I was 10, my mum and dad got divorced and we moved back to France. And I went to an American school from 5th grade to 12th grade. The American school in Paris. Grew up as a teenager in Paris, which was terrible.
Yeah?
No, it was great.
Okay.
You're an expat kid.
Because that's what I want to talk about mostly too.
You can, basically it was growing up as a teenager in a city, you know, Paris is a great city, international city. Europe has a lot more kind of freedoms for kids than I would say America, in the sense that you can drink under the age of 21.
Yeah.
And, you know, in big cities, you can, even in American big cities, you can kind of be anonymous and the cops have bigger issues to deal with, so you get left alone. And then you add the layer to that we were American and English and kids from all over the world hanging out. And if we were doing stupid stuff that teenagers do all the time, and then the cops would come over to us as soon as they figured out we were American or English or something, and we weren't really from there, they would mostly just get angry with us and tell us to go away. So I guess your question was about me. I've grown up as I sometimes think that I've grown up as a bit of an insider and outsider at the same time. So I've been part of a community, but part of my identity and experience has also given me a bit of an outside perspective. So the inside is I'm American. I'm born in America. But the outside part when I'm America is I grew up all of my childhood outside of America. I was a kid in France. I grew up in France. I speak fluent French. I have a French stepmom and a French stepbrother, and I had French friends and French stepfamily. And I was very in French culture, and at the same time, as an outsider, I wasn't French. I was English and American. And the same when I was in England, as I sound English, but English people don't think I'm very English. So it was always this sort of inside and outside perspective, which has developed me into whoever I am now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. It's kind of like me too.
Yeah.
Grew up a lot of, like, both main kind of turning points in my life was in England and here, you know.
Yeah.
I grew up there until I was 16, came here when I was 16, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. But speaking about France, like, what years were you a teenager in Paris?
My whole teenage years. So I turned a teenager in Paris and was there until I was 18 and went to college.
Okay. So what was the biggest advantage and disadvantage of being an expat in Paris?
I think the advantage, as I said a little bit before, was that, you know, you're treated a little bit differently and you're given a bit more leeway in a big city like Paris. I'm sure it would be different if I was a expat teenage kid growing up in a small town, because it's just smaller and that people can pay more attention. But in a big city as an expat kid, like I said, you know, we would do teenage stupid things, and it's not like we didn't always get in trouble, as it were, but often they were just the kind of the police or people in authority was sort of like, oh, we don't want to deal with you because, you know, you're from a different culture in that sort of sense. Very privileged that we were mostly white expats. You know, I don't think an expat who was from a North African country as a teenager had the same experience as I do. Very different.
No.
You know. But
that's interesting why they were like that, the police are. Like, you're still there. You were a citizen or no? No. But you were on a visa? Like, how could you live there and they just wouldn't care?
Well, I mean, I have an English passport as well as an American. So at that time, England was part of the European Union. And so as an English person, you could live there legally. You didn't need a visa. Whereas my American friends, they were all there. Their parents had work visas. They had to have a visa because America doesn't have the same visa relationship.
Okay.
Now, as an English person, you have to have that same visa.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all like they left us alone. I got picked up by the police and arrested and for being teenage stupidness, and had my mum pick us up at the police station.
That's wild.
So
That's wild. I never got arrested, and this guy did. That's crazy.
I don't know about arrested, picked up.
Okay, I didn't get picked up, nothing. I got put in cuffs one time, and that was it.
Got put in cuffs.
It's not the same. They didn't take me anywhere. They just detained me. When did you start? So, my dad now works for a charity called Parrot Creek, and he's been working for charities, which is, I was going to ask, since when? When have you?
My whole life. Well, my whole working life.
So, but you said you were a photographer in New York.
I was.
Well, that was like a side job.
It was my main job,
Huh.
but most of that work was also with charities.
Huh. Oh. Wow. Jesus.
So I've always, one way or another, all of my career, all of my working life has been working with charities, working in the community, in my perspective, to try and make things better in one way or another.
Crazy.
And that's the through line of all of that has been, the entire time, it's been partly working with at-risk kids, disadvantaged youth. I also, as a photographer, as you were saying, I spent 7 years, that's how I actually earned my money, when I was living in New York and around New York, but for 12 years, that was actually a key part of my life and career, was a photographer in the disabled community. So most of the organizations who were paying me to take photos or that I was working with were either charities, non-profits in the community, or they were government agencies that were providing services and sort of other supports and advocacy for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And the photography was always with an advocacy lens to it, or a messaging was about empowering people with disabilities, about providing them with more services and support. A lot of it, really the focus of it was people with developmental or intellectual disabilities, and it was about providing them with much more self-determination and independence.
Yeah. So how does that rope into you taking photos of Bill Clinton?
Because when I was doing all that work, Bill Clinton, President Clinton at the time, passed what is called the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA.
Wow.
And that was a huge key piece of American legislation that mandated things like wheelchair access ramps into buildings, accessible bathrooms. It was a major piece of legislation that made it that was required.
That's crazy.
It's not to say those things weren't already in a lot of places, but they weren't legally required. So President Clinton passed that legislation, and the groups that I was working with in this magazine, that was a disability magazine, we went to the signing ceremony in the South Lawn of the White House, and that's when I first took a picture of Bill Clinton.
That's crazy.
I told him he looked tired.
Yeah, I remember you telling that. That's so funny. What did he say?
He didn't say anything. He did a double take.
Yeah, he's like, you really just spoke to the president like that?
Because he goes down the line shaking hands, and as he shakes one hand, he's actually looking at the next person. This is how I remember it. So, you're me, and Bill Clinton's like this, and then he's like that. And so as he goes like this, he's actually not looking at me. And I said, "You look tired, sir." And he went like that. And he kept going.
That's hilarious. I don't know much about Bill Clinton.
He was tired.
Yeah, I guess so. But what? I forgot. It was a lot. What kind of motivated you to get into this line of work at the start?
I think it goes back to that sort of the insider outsider thing a little bit. When I came, and really I have these very conscious realization moments. So I was basically identified as more as an English kid going to an American school in France, and that was from the age of 10 to 18. That's kind of how I saw myself, even though I was dual national, I am dual national, English and American. And so I was around Americans, I knew them, I understood them, but we were in this slightly different culture and community because we were in France. So I go to university in America. I went to Wesleyan in Connecticut, and I get there, and they're all Americans. They were all people I grew up with, but they were predominantly Americans who hadn't gone overseas. And I was born and raised in America, and then I'm now in American culture. I'm not hanging out with Americans or international folks in French culture. I'm in America, and as I got to know my American friends and my professors at uni, I was like, why do they? I realized that I thought differently, and that's partly because Simon is Simon and thinks we all think differently to each other. But I also realized, what I had understood about the world and how communities work in France, and or by being English and my whole family in England and things, was slightly different to how my American friends thought about culture and community and how social services work and how the medical system works. And as I was becoming a more mature young adult in college, I was like, why? I just got really curious. Why did I think one thing and my best friend who grew up in Massachusetts thinks something different? We're very similar in so many ways, and but in another way they're thinking very differently to me. And I just became more and more curious with that. I started studying sociology, which was then the core of my major at uni. And sociology is really just the study of kind of why and how communities and societies work the way they do. And then I think because I'm a creative and an artist as well with the I was thinking about communities. I was also combining, for doing photography. I was also studying dance, and that as I left uni, I had sort of three thoughts of what I would do with my life, or not my life. That's big thinking. Like, what am I going to do next? I kind of, by studying sociology, I thought maybe I'd go into social work, and because I'd been doing a lot of already at uni, my senior year, kind of done this photography project with people with disabilities. I thought maybe I'd work in a group home or something. I was really keen on my photography and had really enjoyed doing that, so I thought maybe I could become a photographer. And then I'm a good socialist, so I thought maybe I'd become a union organizer. And luckily I didn't do that, because I think it would have killed me.
Probably.
I'm not cut out for that kind of level of conflict. And the photography and the social work kind of combined, and that's what led me to do that photography. And then very soon after I graduated and moved to New York is also when I got involved and helped co-found ArtStart with Scott.
Okay, wow. All right, we'll talk a bit about ArtStart then. So that was kind of the first real big movement you had in the charity world?
Yeah. I mean, that was the first time co-creating an actual organization with someone.
And fucking, like, what made you, like, what motivated you to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I want to know why you just decided to pursue helping people. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're an insider, outsider, but
I think that's a really good question, and I don't think any of it's conscious. I think people, and I'll say myself, but I think a lot of us, you have these very unconscious internal drives, and it takes many years for that to be consciously verbalized. I think a couple of things. Like I said, I was intellectually curious as to why communities and why societies function the way they do. And I became curious why we know so much better. We know how to make things better. We know how to treat people better. We know what it takes to run a fair and equal economy. We know how we should tax people appropriately, the rich and the poor and everyone. We know how we should deliver healthcare. We know how schools should actually be, and we don't do it. Or we do half of it.
Yeah, so you wanted to be the change that you wanted to see.
Yeah, I was like, I know things could be better. I have a mantra that now is like, believe in better. And it's not like I thought I have all the answers. in fact, I said, I don't have all the answers. They're all in books. People have studied this. Academics have done the comparison. If we do this, that happens. If we do that, this happens. That's a much better outcome. We should do that.
Yeah.
But then it's about convincing government to do it, or businesses to do it, or schools, or whomever.
And
So I
the
just
general public.
or the general public, yeah. So I just unconsciously at first was just this internal drive to kind of try and make things better in whatever big or small ways.
Yeah.
And then it's, I think we become much more responsive. Is, you know, like I said, I was interested in photography and interested in social work, and I went to show my portfolio from my college. I did a whole portrait series of people with developmental disabilities, and that was my portfolio when I graduated from uni. And I happened to get introduced to this organization in New Jersey that had a magazine, and I showed them these portraits, and they said why, and they asked me why I took them, and I explained my thinking behind them, and they're like, cool, we'd like you to do some freelance work for us. And that's really what allowed me to then do photography.
Yeah.
I was like offered something, and I was like, I want to do it. And if that door had closed, maybe I would not have done photography in that way. Maybe I would have, something else would have been an opportunity that I said yes to.
Yeah. Back then, would you say it was harder or easier to kind of be like like an entrepreneur photographer? Like you could take your own pictures, publish your own pictures with the meanings. Kind of like a Banksy type person. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's any harder or easier in general to be an entrepreneur in America now, in any time. It's, I think some industries and some sectors, they get very solidified and it's hard to break into, and other times they're very open and you know, I don't know much about this, but you hear of like disruptors in certain sectors and industries they're so solid, and someone comes in and blows it up, and everyone's like, oh my God, now it's really opened up for more innovation.
Yeah.
I do think, particularly around photography now, it's not a phone. Everyone has a smartphone. Everyone can take really good pictures. You know, it's like the computer in your smartphone is more powerful than the computers that my dad, your granddad sold back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Right? And the camera in a smartphone is probably better than even my professional cameras from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and we're just living in a world awash with visual imagery, and it's all disposable, right? Do you remember the pictures, the probably 1,000 images you saw yesterday?
Just like walking around?
You probably, statistically they say that we absorb something like 1,000 images a day on our phone, on the screen, right?
Wow.
Do you remember any of them?
No.
I don't. I mean, I don't think any of us do. But there are some photos I like, images I've been burnt into my memory from things I've seen on a gallery wall or in a magazine, or, you know, certain ones that have stood out. But I think we're now really oversaturated in visual media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still talking about motivation, because I feel like a lot of people lack motivation nowadays. A lot of people living in 3 different countries have kind of realized that. Like, what still motivates you to keep doing what you do now?
So what motivates me to keep doing the things I do? Because I love what I do, right? I'm a very happy, content human being in a world that is fucked up right now, totally, and depressing. But inside of me, I'm a very content human. I feel kind of at ease with who I am. And I love what I do. I love Parrot Creek. I love the people I work with. They're amazing human beings. We do amazing work. And then back to that kind of believe in better, and we know what is needed, and not enough people are doing it, or not enough funding from government or philanthropists is, I think, focused in the right areas. Then I want Parrot Creek and or other organizations, other initiatives to show like this is what we should be aiming for. So for me, Parrot Creek, this is what we should be aiming for the kind of care and treatment of really disadvantaged, very traumatized kids. And then we mirror that actually also in the we have some community programs with adults, and it's the same thing. Like, how do you really treat them with respect and as an autonomous human being to help get the very best out of them and for them? So I want Parrot Creek to just keep being a bit of a shining light or a guiding light. I don't want us to suddenly be the biggest thing, because that's impossible. But if people are like, oh, I wonder what residential care for teenagers should look like, they'd be like, go visit Parrot Creek. Copy that.
Okay.
Be inspired by it. Don't have to copy it all. Be inspired by it.
So that kind of, I don't know if that answers my next question, but is that like your end goal? Like, what is the end goal for, before you retire, what do you want to achieve for yourself or for Parrot Creek?
I don't think that way really, personally. I don't think I've got an end goal and I have to achieve it and I won't feel fulfilled. Like I said, I feel very sort of centered in who I am, and I feel like I've done good things in my life and helped in the right ways and tried not to hurt other people as much as possible. I mean, we're sitting here, we just built a brand new residential treatment campus for youth here in Oregon.
Tell them how much you raised.
Well, it's a $29 million campus. That's what it cost us. We've raised about 26 million. So if you got 3 million, just send it our way. I hope some of your listeners have that much money.
We'll see. This is the first episode. I doubt anyone will be listening.
But we've built this, and it's a dream and a vision, and now we have to deliver. We have to deliver the programs and treat the kids here the way we've said. We want buildings that honor them and are nurturing and will make us do the best work possible. Now we have to do that best work. So that's going to take us a couple years to prove that we're doing it, that level of care. So that's one thing. I want to make sure we achieve that. And I wouldn't die or feel like I've not achieved if this doesn't happen, but I would love it that other people, like I said, look at this and they like that. We want to copy this. We're inspired by doing something of this type of ethos wherever we are in the world. It could be in Connecticut or it could be in Kathmandu. I don't mind. In fact, all of them. But that this inspires them in some way to translate this in whatever way it makes sense in their community.
Is Kathmandu a real place?
It is.
Is it really? Where is it?
It's in Nepal, I think. Yes, the capital of Nepal.
It's the capital too. I like even better. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I like that. It's a good answer. I guess I'm gonna wrap it up with kind of two things. One would be mental health on kids nowadays, and if you can see a difference from when you were a kid and a teenager to now, if there's a lot more. I think there probably is, and I want to see why you think that is.
So my understanding, statistically, absolutely. There is a much greater prevalence of kind of teenage mental health problems, challenges, distress, kids that are kind of struggling with more anxiety, more depression, more personality type disorders, confusion, etc., than there used to be when I was growing up. Statistically, everyone says that's true. I also, and how our culture has evolved, particularly kind of Western culture, but I think it's mirrored in a lot of other cultures around the world. I'm just not familiar with them as much, right? I live in a Western culture. But how our cultures have evolved, the role, the downsides of individualism versus collectivism, right? And there's some very good sides of it, is people having more autonomy, people kind of doing what they want to do and not feeling like they're controlled or held down because they're the wrong class or the wrong color or don't have the right money or the right clothes. Like, a lot of that individualism blows that away. It says, fuck that shit, that's all wrong. But the downside of some of that, when we don't think this isn't as great for me, but it's good for the whole, that is when you have to balance those things. And you know, I want to drive at 100 miles an hour selfishly, but by doing so, I'm going to kill people.
Mm.
So that's why we have speed limits. It's
Yeah.
for the collective good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just silly bit of an anyway. I'm going off topic a bit. You can edit this. So I think there's some aspects of that. There's social media and just media in general, and the internet
Yeah.
has really, it's made kids have information and awareness that developmentally our brains have not caught up to.
Yeah.
So you have kids, whether it's seeing violent imagery, sexual imagery, even just concepts, intellectual concepts that their brains developmentally just can't understand, and that causes mental distress.
Yeah.
It's like I'm getting information, stimulus information, and my brain literally physiologically can't compute it,
Yeah.
and that causes distress.
Yeah.
The flip side of some of this, where I'm also optimistic, is I think a lot of youth nowadays, and I see this in your brothers, is they have they also, that comes with some sort of awareness of things, like, you know, Max and now Alec at his high school are taught mindfulness. We teach mindfulness to the youth here, and Max will come home and talk about concepts that he's learning that I didn't even learn about until I was in my late 30s or 40s, right? And you know, and so I think the youth of today, and yourself and your generation and the younger generations, they're also getting introduced both to concepts they cannot understand and are distressing, and other concepts that took me 40 years of my life to ever learn about, and they're being introduced to them at a much younger age in a positive way. But at the moment, it feels like too much of the distressing dissonance and not enough of the nurturing, you know, awareness piece. And I don't know where that's going to end up. At the moment, it doesn't feel great.
No, I was trying to think of the same thing, like where do you meet that in the middle? But I don't know if you really can, with the exposure people have to everything on social media, like X, Twitter is terrible.
Yeah.
Do you have Twitter?
No,
You have X?
I have no interest in it.
Bro,
It's horrible.
You anything you want to see, anything. Like, it's basically the dark web.
Yeah.
Literally, it is so bad. But I also really like it because it kind of gives you the nitty gritty shit that kind of wakes you up. Because Instagram and TikTok, what's it called?
Well, there's filters and there's
filters, and like you don't get the full effect of it, and people need the full effect of a lot of stuff that's going on, you know. But not kids.
But no,
Not kids.
we've not
Kids-
figured out that. We've not figured out the right controls and protections around that.
Yeah.
And I would argue, it does not, just because it's freedom of quote speech or you should have access to information, is no, like videos of people being raped, people being maimed and killed should just not be freely able to be seen, right? Go down the whole pornography element, the kind of unfettered access of pornography, the level of violence that is in pornography, shouldn't be that easy. You can right now, you go on whatever your favorite
Google.
porn site is, and you can see some of the most fun stuff to the most horrific, and it's all there.
Yep.
That whole horrific side, it should just not come through, and hopefully it would really minimize that it's actually being created.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop it.
No.
We've not ever managed to do that. But
No.
so some filters, I think, even for us lovely adults, should be there.
But so that brings me to the term like seeing is believing. You know, like there's a lot of naive people that don't believe, or they don't want to believe the shit that's going on in Israel and Palestine right now.
Yep.
And on X is where you actually see those videos of bombs dropping, of the children with a leg blown off, which for me at the whole start of it really, really woke me up to it. I was like, okay, this is actually really fucking real and bad.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like just like seeing it is something different than just hearing it. Hey, there's a genocide going on in Palestine.
Absolutely.
Okay, what does that mean?
Yep.
Hey, I'll show you what it fucking means. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that's like the good part. You know.
No,
'cause
I agree.
It's hard
and
to believe a lot of stuff without seeing
Yeah,
it.
it is. And I don't, this is the unanswerable question, really. Like, you and I are going to figure it out. And I think we wobble around like this. And of course, you then have the other madness is people saying, our lovely president, or saying that this medicine, which has been used safely for 50 years, 100 years, and suddenly now is bad for you. And people believe it just because that person says it, or they say, and this other thing is going to cure you, and then doctors say, actually, no, drinking bleach is actually deadly, but that person said it is going to cure you, so people believe it.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, they were like as old as you or in their 60s, and I was saying even in the last like 12, 15 years of my life, the amount of science and stuff that has changed, like before this stuff was good, and now just in my lifetime it's changed. Like, no, this is really bad now.
And that has actually been throughout history.
I know, but it's crazy to think about it and see it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a conscious thing in most people's minds.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is now bad for me, cool.
Yeah.
They don't really think about it. Like, people don't think deep enough in life.
Sadly not.
No, I know. It's kind of crazy, actually. How?
So, how? Why don't they? I guess distracted.
I guess it's a self-defense mechanism.
It's a self-defense. It's painful to think deeply sometimes.
I guess. But the more you do it, the easier it comes. It gets. It does.
I hope so.
It's just training, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's for a different episode, but it's how I got over like anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia. It's just basically lying and fighting to yourself. Like, I don't need or want to feel like this. So that's how I did it. I just lied to myself every day. I was like, I don't feel like this. That's just a separate kind of, like a tumor. It's something that's not part of me, but it's just attached that I can detach.
Right.
And it's just getting over that mental barrier. Yeah. It's all it is.
Well, you found a way of you found a way of saying, I'm not going to let these thoughts dominate.
Yeah, I mean, they're still there every day. I still get anxious every day. And every other day is like a worse day than the other day, but they're still there every day. You just got to suppress them and be like, fuck off. Like, it's not me thinking. It's the other person inside that wants me to drown. Yeah.
So I think a therapist might say, you can say you were suppressing them, or you found a way of saying you're not allowing those
to have control over me.
Have control over you. You're saying that is not a useful thought pattern.
Exactly. That's actually it.
That's the therapist in me, not another therapist.
I mean, it is. It's not a useful thought pattern. You're not going to achieve anything by just continuously thinking, I'm depressed and negative and sad,
and I'm not good enough. And I'm not the right XYZ.
Your brain is the most powerful fucking thing in the whole world. Yeah. The brain is an incredible thing. And as long as you train it and pay attention to it, you use it. It's a weapon. It's a huge weapon, the brain. But I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Okay.
Thank you for coming on my podcast.
I guess I hug my son.
Yeah, we're gonna hug. Thank you guys for watching. I don't know when the next episode will be. But
Thank you.
Stay tuned.